Yeah, so my name's Anna and I'm the club support manager for the Northeastern Cumbria. We have a series of webinars running. We had a series before Christmas, which were track and field webinars, and the series won number 2 out of 3 now for the road running webinars, which have been going down very well so far. So hopefully tonight we'll go through the hour session. The club will be going through, and the format as it shows on your screen. Ashington Hirst Running Club are going to be sharing their good practice and doing a presentation which will last around 30 minutes or so. Then we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers, which obviously you can ask, and like Tanya alluded to, if you can ask the questions in the chat box and we'll pick those up at the end. And then we'll have an open forum at the end, just if you want to share any of your club's good practices, etc. So that's the format of the webinar, and we'll go from there. So that leaves me to introduce the club. We have Ashington Hirst Running Club, like I mentioned, doing a presentation tonight to answer obviously the question, and hopefully by the end of it you'll pick up some handy hints and tips which you can take back to the club and be beneficial for the club moving forward. So I'll now pass over to Ian and he can introduce the presentation and go from there.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Tanya, as well. My name's Ian. I'm the chairman of Ashington Hirst Running Club. I'm also a coach in running fitness as well. And welcome, everybody. I'll give you an overview of the club in a moment, but first of all, I'd like my 2 colleagues here to introduce themselves first. Over to Michelle first.
Evening everyone, my name's Michelle Embleton. I'm the treasurer at Ashington Hirst Running Club and I'm also a run leader. I've been with the club for about 3 years now and I've been a run leader for 2.5 of those. And over to Natalie.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie McDermott. I'm the secretary of Ashington Hirst Running Club and I'm also a run leader. I've been a member of the club for about 3 years and a run leader for about 2 years. So back over to Ian.
Thank you. Well, the running club itself possibly started off similar to many running clubs over the years. With us being a very new running club, we started as a running group in 2014, quite simply as a run walk group. And that was simply looked after by myself, as I was the only coach, run leader there at the time. It was actually as a level 1 in those days. And my wife used to come along to give us some moral support, and we had 5 or 6 people doing run walk. We progressed very slowly, actually, from that point until it actually got dark. And what was interesting with that was once it got dark, lots of people wanted to run in a group, safety-wise. There was lots of ladies and there was a few gentlemen came. And from that point, the group progressed to 2015 and we became a UK affiliated running club. And once we were affiliated, we started to think about what we wanted to do as a running club. Where we were based in the Northeast England, it's road running, for example, is the most popular part of it. And so we tried to group in some run groups, run walk, and efforts, and you could imagine it was quite difficult with just myself. So very slowly we started to get people interested. Those who were interested and could attend the club for a while, we managed to persuade them, shall we say, and we'll find out a little bit more about that in a moment, to become leaders in running fitness. And so once we had done that, things got a little bit easier and the club began to grow to the point now we have 23 leaders in running fitness and 3 coaches in running fitness who all look after us. On a club night, we can take up to 100 athletes. The average on a club night is probably 60 to 70, so that's quite a few. And we have a few different methods of how we accommodate that, which hopefully will be of interest. We do happen to train on Tuesdays and Thursdays. These are the main nights, and on that we actually offer 2 effort sessions, 2 or 3 run groups of different distances where you simply just go for a run with the leaders in running fitness, and we always have a run, walk, or beginners group, however you wish to describe it, but it does contain run, walk. Like I mentioned, we mainly run on paths in a major town. These are well lit, so we can use them in the winter. We may do slightly different routes in the summer. We are very, very fortunate because we're actually based in a school. The school has a grass running track, which we have provided. It is a grass track, but we have provided that. And the school happens to have 2 gymnasiums. So all very, very good. So with that, I shall hand over to Natalie.
Hi, I'm just going to talk a bit about the recruitment of run leaders, the LERFs. So the first thing to consider is identifying what your club or your group actually needs, as in what's the size, how many runners you have attending. We have a mix of abilities and groups, as Ian's already mentioned. So we range from run walk up to run groups and also effort groups. So that means we need a mix of running abilities within the run leaders to allow us to cover these groups. We'll try and stick to the ratio of 1 run leader to 12 members. Although if 13 members came along, we wouldn't turn one away, but it's just kind of to give us some general guidance and cover for the groups. So we'll have the coaches, the serfs, who plan any effort sessions, and they tended to go along to the effort sessions. And in our club, they'll actually run along with the effort sessions rather than, just standing and directing. And as the club's grown, we've found that we need run leaders to go along to these effort sessions, because obviously we're getting more and more members coming along. And what our sort of intention is to try and recruit more run leaders than we actually need, because you get people's circumstances changing over time, family circumstances, work commitments, injuries, which means not everyone who is a run leader or a coach can come along every session. So you're giving yourself a bit of flexibility to still being able to cover the numbers. So then it's moving on to who were asked to become a run leader. With us, we've got a big mix of abilities. So you need someone who's comfortable at the pace you want them to cover the group for. And obviously looking at who comes along on the days you need cover for. Because we tend to be able to identify gaps where we might find groups haven't got enough cover. So we might ask certain individuals who could cover those groups who attend on that particular day. Sort of target audience and persuading people. You could just try and do an email around the club to see if you get any interest, but we found that sort of impersonal approach doesn't get a very good response. We found that asking individuals makes them feel a bit more valued and a bit more like, they're making a contribution towards the club, and often are much more willing to agree to go on the course. But people do worry that it's a big undertaking to be responsible for other people, and they might worry they're going to have to stand up in front of a big group and do a big group warm-up. We have got run leaders and coaches who are more than happy to do that, so we do try and explain, we'll never put anyone on the spot if they don't feel comfortable. And obviously if you're a bit unsure about taking a big group out initially, you'll have people with you just to give them a bit more confidence. Try and mix the age ranges and gender mix so that everyone's got people that feel comfortable around. We've got age ranges from 19 to 70 as both members and coaches and run leaders within our group. So what we're finding now is, because we've got more run leaders than really we need, it allows the run leaders to participate in their own effort sessions if that's what they want to do. Initially, we're having to ask people just to go along to run groups, and I think sometimes it was felt that they were maybe giving up a bit of their own training, whereas now, because we've got a much bigger mix of abilities and plenty of cover, if people want to go along to an effort session, every other time, they're more than happy to do that. And I think they appreciate that, they're
if they get the chance to pursue their own training, they're happy to cover groups at other times. Like I say, I think when people are asked individually, it does make them feel valued as a member of the team. So I'll pass over to Michelle now.
Yeah, so obviously, as well as recruiting run leaders and surfs as well, you need to retain the people that you've got and hopefully see them progress through the club. So obviously we're in a running club and people like to run. Some people like to do different paces and distances. So it's exactly the same for your run leaders and your surfs. So we try and swap it around a lot. So as Natalie's already mentioned, our run leaders have the ability to be able to join in with the groups and do their own training when we've got cover to do so. And because we've got so many, we can generally accommodate their training. So we all take turns depending on our running ability. And we're very fortunate that we've got quite a lot of our run leaders can cover many of the different groups. So we take turns and that works really well and keeps everyone happy and retains our run leaders. And also, if our run leaders want to take their qualifications further, they'll have the opportunity to do so, not just in the bigger surf courses, but the many England athletics courses that quite a few of us have taken up and enjoyed at different locations. We also make the run leaders feel like they're part of a team. From time to time, we have coaches meetings on ideas, thoughts, good points, bad points. We've got a Facebook Messenger group, so if we do need to communicate in bulk about training opportunities, things that if we want to have a get together, that we've got the ability to do so all in one private enclosed group. We also sometimes enter club-to-club relay races where it's our run leaders and coaches only as a thank you. It might not be seen that way. We sometimes do very hilly relays, which might not be much of a thank you, but it's something that makes our run leaders feel special because they give up their time so much. So it's nice to give something back to them. We do give all of our run leaders and coaches high-vis tops. We've recently acquired some nice ones, and they do actually have what our role is on the back. We've got AHRC on the front, so it's easily identifiable in a big group of people. And on the back, it's got whether we're a LERF or a surf, so there can be no confusion as to what anyone's role is within the club. They also get valuable kit to carry, which is things like a whistle, foil blanket, first aid kit, and a waste pouch for them to carry everything in. And as I've mentioned, first aid, we also do send all of our run leaders on a paid-for first aid training course. So it is a first aid training in sport, but it's very useful because it's skills that can be transferred outside of the club for your home life or your work or whatever, if you needed to do so. And communication's also a really big part of our run leaders group. So we've got a closed Facebook event for every run night that we have. So on a weekend, I will set up a Facebook event and invite in all of our run leaders and coaches. So within that, it will show who can attend on a club night and who can't. And it's where we share what's going to happen on a club night. So once we know who's available, that gives us a very good idea that we've got the right amount of coverage. It allows people to put their preferences if they want actually to do an effort session or a 3-mile run or a fast run. So we can try and accommodate people's training and their own preferences and what they're comfortable with. And the night before a run night, Claire, who is another one of our run leaders, she will put in who is in which group the following night and what the route is going to be. So especially when you're changing from the dark nights to the light nights, our routes change. So it's really important for our run leaders to be aware of where they're going to be running on an evening so they can direct their runners with them. So given that bit of advance notice just for planning and routes is coming very useful. We've also all shared our mobile numbers. So if on a club night there's a problem, we can always get in touch with someone else. And fortunately, the way that we set our routes out allows us to pick up anyone who may be falling behind in the group, that you always know that generally there's going to be someone slower coming up from behind to pick up anyone who might get cast adrift away from the group, even though we do always advise our runners to stay with someone at all times. And we also have coaches and run leaders at the back of the groups, but it just allows us to be able to do that. We have within our coaching team, we've got key holders, we've got some that have got more first aid training than others, and that overall coverage really, really helps us on a run night. And I will hand you back over to Ian.
Thank you, Michelle. The key to anything, to be truthful, is talk to people. So find out, for example, if you've got existing run leaders now, find out what they like to do, what they don't like to do. So, for example, with our huge mix, we've got some people who would probably feel very, very uncomfortable and be off-put if I kind of persuaded them to do a group warm-up when we had 100 people here, or when we had 60 people here, or when we even had 10 people here. It would just be not fair and not polite, and would put them off being helping us, basically, because that's what they're doing. We're all volunteers. Fortunately, we do have people who are more than happy to do that. So why not get those people who are happy to do that? And why I use that as an example, that's another good thing to get your coaches and your leaders in running fitness involved with the club members, which is a group warm-up, for example. We find that works very well. So that's wanting to do. You may find some of the leaders in run fitness actually want to stand and coach and progress with the coaching with a more experienced coach. Again, that can be encouraged. Like we mentioned before, there's lots of very short courses you can do with England Athletics. There's the more longer courses, which people can get into. And on the other hand, some of our run leaders quite simply want to help. They want to help, they want to go for a run, and by them being here with their presence, they are helping the club. And that is very, very important. We are now in a very fortunate position. For example, if an athlete wishes to try one of either the faster run groups or wishes to try an effort session, is a bit concerned about that, we can actually send a run leader with them. And we can do it like that. So if the athletes get to know the leaders in running fitness a little bit and they're quite comfortable with them, that's a massive advantage as well. We found with all the leaders in running fitness, the love feeling valued. So please, thank you, obviously goes a long way. The kit we now have, we're in the fortunate monetary position we can afford to do that. Others can't, but you can still get the high vis tops very, very cheaply, the bibs and things. That makes people feel welcome. And keep talking to your run leaders, and just emphasize that they don't need to worry. There's some things they don't have to do if they don't want to do it, because you may, if you can, have enough cover to do that. And one really nice thing we can do now is, instead of sending one athlete who is interested in becoming a leader in running fitness on a course, send two, so they have a bit of company. And obviously they're starting their experience at the same time as well. So that all helps. We've done this for a few years in our short existence, and nothing's ever perfect, and we learn all the time. But we just find that what we have tried to explain to you all works well, and it's possibly some of them. The points are possibly things that you've all come across before, no matter what size of club you are. So with that, that's about the shortest I've ever spoken for. So I'll hand you back to Anna.
Thanks for that, Ian, Natalie and Michelle. That was a great presentation. I think really outlined exactly what your club does and how exactly, obviously, you both retain and recruit, obviously, the run leaders. So great presentation, and we will go to any questions that people have. I can see some are coming up on the forum, so let's put them onto the big screen and then we'll get them answered for you. All right, let's start with Okay, so Eve's asked a question. Do you fund all the run leader development, or are they self-funded / contribute?
We have done them ourselves. We've never had anybody self-fund. I've had experience of that in the past at different places. So we've tended as a club to pay for it ourselves. But we have had, in the very early days, we have had small grants to help with that. In the early days, we did a bit of fundraising. Cake sales are very popular here in Northumberland. You could do things like that. You could do some kind of sponsored activity, bonus balls, get your club together, and they could raise some funds to pay a little bit. Or you could also ask very, very nicely to your local England athletics officer who may have a little bit of assistance. But technically, we fund the Run Leader development programs ourselves.
I think we are we're very careful who we ask as well. We make sure that they've been in the club
Yes.
For I would say maybe at least 6 months, so you get to know people's personalities, their commitments, whether they can come along or not. So by us being able to pay for them, we pretty much know that we're going to get our money's worth out of it by sending them on the courses.
That's true, yes.
Brilliant. So hopefully that's answered that question for you, Eve. Philip is asking, approx how many members do you have?
Today, approximately 190. Yes, 190.
And are all of those members running members, or do you have a mixture of social and competitive members?
In terms of potentially coming to training, 96% do come to training from time to time. On a busy club night, we've had about 105. If there's an average, it's 60 or so per night. But on the books, if you like, it's approximately 190 members, Philip.
Excellent, thanks for that. Right, next question is from Lindsay. Who sets your running schedules as a club?
Me. I've got nothing else to do. No, I was up until quite recently head coach as well. However, we've got a wonderful head coach now called Jacqueline. So, for example, in terms of a running schedule, Jacqueline would set the effort session. I can do that as well because I used to do it. But so as a club, we perhaps have 2 groups for effort sessions, which Jacqueline as head coach would set. We tend to set them around about for training for 10K, something like that. Thursday night is what we call endurance efforts, so it's a bit longer. Tuesday night is a bit more shorter efforts. Other than that, we always have set-ish distances for the run groups, so we perhaps will have a couple of groups doing 4 miles, a couple of groups doing 3 miles, and we always have a run-walk group on. And again, I've always just done that through experience, and you kind of assess the members who turn up, Lindsay. Once you get to know people and you know their abilities, you can kind of look to that within your club as well.
And another recent thing we've just introduced, maybe so the last 3 weeks, because we're fortunate enough to set off from the school gym, we've got quite a big meeting area that we get our run leaders who know what group they're taking. They've got laminated signs with what groups they're taking with them. So we ask them to stand in separate areas of the gym so that runners can go and stand with the run leader that they're going to be running with. So we can assess that we've got the right number of run leaders with each group, and we'll move people around if we need to, just to make sure we've got the right amount of coverage. And also, if you've got newer members coming along, so we get new runners almost every night, every club night at the moment, that they get to know who the run leaders are immediately. They know who they're running with, and they're identifiable.
I think one other thing with that is we don't put people in groups, which some other clubs do.
Yes.
We always just, if someone new comes along, suggest which group they might be comfortable in, and then, they might want to move up after that. but we don't say you have to go in this particular group.
That's right.
Perfect, thanks for that. So the next question is, can you say a bit more about your effort sessions?
I can, Deborah. I hope you've got all night, because it's me. I'm renowned for speaking a lot, but I'll keep it short because I'll get wrong off Anna. Okay, Tuesday, well, our main club nights, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday, I'll start one of the effort groups specifically designed for racing towards 10Ks around about that area. So, for example, what Jacqueline may set for that particular effort session, she may have a group of about 20 people want to do that. So within that, Jacqueline as head coach would go along, and what we tend to do is our coaches in running fitness only take effort sessions, not the leaders in running fitness. You can, of course, under certain circumstances, do it slightly differently, but that's what we've decided to do. Jacqueline takes some leaders in running fitness with her to assist, but generally be a presence there for safety. We'll go to a local stretch of road, for example. It could be a business park, it could be a cycle track, very high cycle area around here. And an example of a session she might particularly set would be something simple like, in the past I've done 20 by 30 second efforts as a bit of an introduction to efforts, because they're very short, they're sharp, people can't get left behind too much, and you can keep people together. So that was one of my classic ones when I wasn't sure how people would react to effort sessions. So that's the type of thing she would do on Tuesday. On Thursdays, slightly different because it's something I've always wanted, which was endurance, because I do a lot of marathons and half marathons. So one of our classic ones for that is we like to do something like 8 by half mile efforts with perhaps 2 or 3 minutes recovery in between, and the effort pace on a Thursday evening for endurance efforts is probably around about your 5 to 10K pace with that bit of recovery in. Again, that's slightly more difficult because you get more spread out. But again, what we can do, because we've got lots of run leaders and people who want to help us, we could have someone at the front, someone at the back, someone in the middle. And again, we can kind of look to the members who might want to do it with regards to paces, and we can adjust accordingly, which we're quite good at. Another type of effort session which we would do, and another coach would take that, is a little bit more technical efforts. So we can look at perhaps in a gym here. It doesn't have to be in a gym, but it could be in a schoolyard. It could be just in a bit more confined space. We look at the technical aspects of running and look at people's gaits and a little bit more technique, and perhaps it's a bit more dynamic warm-up. We can do that as well. So we mix it all up. So that's a little bit more, that's a little bit different, and that's something quite interesting to a lot of people. So that's the gist of the effort sessions, very briefly.
Excellent, thanks for that. So on to the next question. As a club, we do pay for courses. However, on occasion, some leave fairly soon after. How long do you expect someone to coach having been funded by you, and how do you control this?
20 years.
It varies, doesn't it?
I don't think we've got anything set, have we?
We haven't. I've seen where some clubs do set this. Very, I think, first of all, we might have been very lucky. And on the luck side, I think out of the many run leaders we have and have had, there's been, I couldn't even count one or two who have basically done the course and said, look, this isn't for me, I need to go. It is perhaps sensible to put something in writing, although if they're physically left, it will be difficult. I would usually when people want to do run leader or coaching, that they actually want to do it, and as Michelle and Natalie mentioned before, we tend to look at the person. We've identified an area. It might be that person can perhaps come on a Thursday. They might have been coming for a while, so you know them as a member. And just by that and experience, it's okay. sadly, I don't think it's difficult to prevent this. You could put something in writing and get them to sign it, but how you would back it up, I don't know. Don't know if anybody else thinks it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a normal club runner for 6 months when I was asked to be a run leader. And I think because you can determine most people's personality, how much they can attend. And when I was asked to be a run leader, apart from being extremely surprised, I felt very honoured to be asked to be that. And that's really how most of our run leaders feel when we ask them. And what we did, and it worked very well, we've tried recruiting run leaders from, and no offence to any of our run leaders, but from the slowest up over.
Yes.
Because and ask a few of them together that already run together. We were very fortunate to have about 5 of our female run leaders. We're very much of a similar pace, ran together in our run groups. So we knew if we asked one, we'd probably get all of them on board because they enjoy running together. And they really, really felt like it was a privilege to be able to do it for the club. But because we can mix it up a bit, they can do their own thing as well. So we tend not to lose people because of how we do it. But if I was to put a time on it, I would say I don't think we would ask anybody before 6 months. But other than that, it's all about gauging people's personality and attendance.
And don't forget that in theory, if you've got enough people helping you, they don't have to coach, shall we say, physically coach every single time. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I don't want to be a coach on a Thursday. Fortunately, now, as the club has grown and progressed, I don't have to do any coaching on a Thursday. I might still wear my coach's top, but I'm there to do some endurance training. So, as you progress, you could perhaps say to people, look, if you can come this night, that's fantastic, but on the other night, perhaps if you want to do your own thing, that's absolutely fine, and that may stop them. I think that would probably is answer as best as I can, as we can as well, Ted. Yeah.
And recruiting from the bottom up over allows you kind of slower run leaders to move up to a middle pace when they're ready, and your middle pace to move up to a faster pace, which quite a few of us have been able to do that we couldn't do before.
So that's always a good incentive for people as well, and that might stop some saying, "Oh, I want to go to another club because they train faster than you." It could be something like that. Yeah.
I never feel like I can't get my own training in.
So hopefully that's a good thing.
That's great. Thanks for that, guys. All right. The next question we've got is, what size of group is each LERF responsible for?
Well, like I said earlier, we try and stick roughly to the 1 to 12 ratio. However, because we've got so many run leaders now, you might find that, you've got 6 run leaders with a group of 12 people.
Yes.
Just because we've got so many now, which is great. And again, it allows them to do the kind of run they want to do that night rather than being asked to do something they don't want to do. But I think in general, as long as we've got in a run group someone at the front, a few in the middle, and someone who's prepared to, stay at the back in case anyone gets dropped off. But as long as we're within the 1 to 12 ratio, but we're often more than that. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Helen, I'm reading your question, and it reminded me of when we started the running group as opposed to a club, because it was just me. And one of the difficulties I had, initially, it wasn't the size of the group, it was the difference of ability. So people would come and say, I've never ran before, could I try running with you? And we were doing a run walk group, and some people physically could run and run fairly well. And other people physically couldn't run. So you had some people doing run walk and some people running. That is a bit different, and you had to kind of stay in the middle, keep an eye on the 10 or so I had at the time. And I would do a thing called lampposts, again, because we're road running and we're on footpaths. And I would get people who could run 2 or 3 lampposts ahead, turn around and come back. You kept the group together, and those running could physically then have a little bit extra run. But the maximum size we would try to let a leader in running fitness out with would be around about 12. But in our case, we've got a much better ratio. Hope that helps.
Brilliant, Ian. Thanks for that. So Steve is asking, have you ever had to say no to someone wanting to go on a Lurf course for whatever reason? If so, how did you handle this and how did they react?
Yeah, oh yeah, you do get that. So first of all, we mentioned before, if for example, you send out a group email to your club members, you possibly won't get anybody coming back. Or if you did it on Facebook, you definitely wouldn't get anybody coming back because people don't like to promote themselves too much, we tend to find. If you ask someone initially, they may say yes once you've explained it. It's how you explain things. So if someone says no, usually they would give a reason, and you might be able to work around that reason. So for example, if they said, look, I don't come on a Tuesday, I want to come on a Thursday, but I want to do my own training. Well, is there not a way you could work around that? Could they still not do their own training with that? And then someone else might say, I don't want the responsibility. Well, if you've already got some leaders in running fitness, it's like a joint responsibility. You're not just going to launch them into anything. So you could be all right with that. Don't know if anybody else got anything to add.
What he's asking is,
I haven't answered. I've just sorry.
Have you ever said no to someone who's asked, other than them?
Steve, I've completely misread your question. Have I said no to someone wanting to go? Apparently, I did. I was reminded of this the other day, and for what reason? Yes, okay. Well, in our early days, indeed, I did. Someone said, can I be a run leader? And I did give the answer no. And why I did it, it was I desperately needed somebody who could run a faster pace than they could manage. And how did I handle it? Probably badly, but she still speaks to us now and is actually on our committee now. So
and she's a run leader.
And she's a run leader now. So I can't remember how I did that. I probably did it quite politely and
Or what you maybe said was not at the moment.
Right, there you go.
Possibly.
Yes.
That might be the way to handle it.
I didn't say that to you by any chance, did I? Yeah. But thank you, Natalie. Yes.
I think because as well we've found out that the best way to do it is by invitation only. Because as Ian's mentioned, that if you go out and you ask people, you might not get the right people. They might be wanting to do it for their own benefit. And as one of the other questions is, you get someone who does the course and then they leave the club. So by doing it invitation only, we find we don't have to say no because we've already considered who they are first and we would like them to be part of our team.
So it's better nowadays, Steve. So sorry for getting that completely wrong before.
That's great, guys. So Philip is asking another question. Any further details on first aid course? I'm going to put it over to the club because obviously they arrange their own courses.
We did. We are, again, we've done it a couple of different ways. Believe it or not, over the years, we've had one of our members belonged to the ambulance service. And he was allowed to give first aid courses for charitable purposes, shall we say. So he would come and do some form of first aid. We would just explain the type of running we did and where it would come from and what the type of injuries would be. And Chris, as he was called, would do that for us. And there was no certificate involved. I think you could get one if you made a donation to a charity. So there was that. What we do now is we have a member's husband who part of his own company. This is what he does for a living. So we just once again explain what we're after, and Simon comes along and does the first aid course again because we're in a school, as we are sat here today in a very nice classroom, new classroom block. He comes in here and he does it, we don't force and we don't make the run leaders do it, but most of them just want to do it. And we do it at a weekend for a couple of hours after a park run, as it happens. You seem to get a good response doing that. So that's how we've done that. And because if you have a group together in your own place, probably it won't cost as much as sending people individually. But you don't have to have a first aid course.
What we also did the last first aid course, because we've got premises, we opened it up to our local park run as well. And their regular volunteers took us up on it and they came along. So we'd already paid for the course anyway, and our local parkrun volunteers got to come along as well and get some training, because there was a recent incident that we felt that would really benefit for some up-to-date training.
Someone collapsed at parkrun.
Yeah. So you can do things like that, so it gets you more involved with your community.
That's great, guys. And obviously for those that, just to on top of that, for those that don't necessarily have their own, base classroom people within the club that can provide that, your local, what used to be County Sports Partnership, Active Partnership, in your area provide first aid courses on a pretty much a monthly basis, obviously varying from emergency first aid to first aid at work, etc. So you can always obviously find those out online and book onto those. They're not that expensive, and again, depending on how many run leaders you do have within your club, it might be worthwhile obviously investing that, whether it's the club pays half, or like obviously the courses they pay half, etc. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but I think it is quite important to make sure obviously if those that have been qualified as a run leader or a coach do have obviously those tools in their back pocket just in case for what if scenarios. Moving on to the next question from Claudia. There's two parts to this one, so we'll start with the first one, which is, have you ever invited a run leader join you who already trains sprinters several nights a week? So we'll go for that one first.
No, we haven't, but I've come across that before. So in my past life, if you like. So you kind of could link in both of your questions, because it's quite relevant. It's about managing space. We can do some of our short effort sessions within the space. The school yard is obviously bigger than the gyms. In the summer, the grass track is a good place, and within that we've actually had 2 efforts groups within the grass track. So we've managed to do that, but we've never had a run leader to join who would already train sprinters several nights a week. You would need with that to identify the space they would need, and then I suppose you've got to decide how that would benefit that run leaders group and your group, and to manage your space. So if for example, if the sprint group needs to take up all of your space, is that what you want? Is that what you can cope with? That's probably the extent of my knowledge on that, because it is generally road running we tend to do, to be truthful. But yeah, I mean, again, don't forget with your Leaders in Running Fitness course, part of the first part of the course is actually you'll physically go and create space and check it all for safety wise. So if it's in the school grounds, it's not as bad. You just watch for obstacles and so on. You've just got to manage your space accordingly. You've got to work on what you're going to do. So you might need to tailor your sessions together, have a discussion on that, and then again tailor that session to manage to work within your space. If that's your limiting factor of space, you've both got to work within it. It probably is the answer.
Brill, thanks, Ian. And just as a final part on that, do you, as a club, help to maintain those running spaces at the school, or is the school solely responsible for obviously maintaining the grass track and things like that?
We actually, because the school is fantastic to us, really good. Everything about it is wonderful. We've done a couple of what we hope are very nice things for the school. We pay for the grass track, and it's actually a 400-metre track and a 200-metre track, to be burnt on and marked up a minimum of once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending upon how much the grass grows. We pay for that as a club. We find it's a very nice thing to do for the school. We did a lot of fundraising a while ago with the sole intention of paying for a defib for the school. So we bought them a defibrillator as well. So we look to, as members, our members are wonderful in the way that they want to help. And one of their very good things by helping is fundraising. They do wonderful amounts for charity. So we look to the school to help the school as well as much as we can.
Brilliant, thanks for that, Ian. Just conscious, I think the mic's breaking up a little bit, so if we just become conscious of that before we answer the next question. It could be the weather outside, who knows? Charlie's asking, where are the funds coming from? Do members pay for sessions?
So we charge annual membership fee, and we currently charge £35 a year for annual membership, and within that membership, our club members get the Tuesday and Thursday run sessions that we've already mentioned. We also have a Friday run group as well, which is purely a run group. It does have fewer people that go along, and our members also get Pilates twice a month. So you get an awful lot of value if you want to move to Northumberland. And that does cover your EA for your affiliation, as Natalie says. We do allow guest runners to come along. And if you want to just come try out the club for a little bit, you can pay £2 a session. And that has been very popular lately. What we find is once people have been maybe 2 or 3 times, they join the club anyway. So the majority of what we ask our people to pay for is their annual membership, any guest fees. We also have a club shop which sells nutrition, running things, running tops, all sorts of things to help with training. Just so we do make a little bit of money there as well, but that all goes back at the club funds, so it helps us provide things at the school. We do pay rent at the school, we don't get it for free, but we do very, very well, as Ian's mentioned, with our fundraising. So we're very, very fortunate that we are able to cover all of the sessions, as well as a lot we pay for cross-country for our members. We pay for inter-club relays as well.
Too cheap, Charlie.
Yeah, we are actually very, very good value for money. But we don't have to scrimp on everything. We just make sure that we give as much back to our members as what they give to us.
We did get a small grant for a few £100 on the very early days of the club, and that obviously did help. So that was just a few £100, but you do have to be, with any finances, you've just got to be accountable and be very careful. That's it. So members don't pay for sessions, but they pay a yearly fee. I think that's the answer as well. Yeah,
we're very self-sufficient. Based on how we raise funds for the club.
Yeah.
Excellent, that's great. Thanks for answering that, guys. Any final questions that come through, if you can send them through now. Obviously, if you think of a question after the session's finished, please do kind of send that on and we'll get that answered for you as best as we can, whether it's from the club or ourselves. So we'll just wait just a couple more seconds if anyone has a question to put through, and we'll close it off there.
I know, if I just share one more thing with the clubs that are online, because one of the other roles we've recently introduced to our club is a welcome officer. So as I mentioned before, we get new runners, new guests coming to us all the time. So we've introduced this role into our committee, and it's actually the run leader that Ian said no to, who is now a run leader. But our welcome officer, when we get new runners coming along to the club, we point them in Sarah's direction, so she can find out what their pace is, what they've done in the past, what they want to achieve, and determine which group may be appropriate for their first session with us. Introduce them to the run leader they're going to be running with. But that in turn helps our run leaders, because they know they've got someone new running with them, and make sure that they're okay. And after the session, Sarah will link in with that runner to make sure they've enjoyed it, what they liked, if there was anything they didn't like, and determine really how they're going to progress going forward. So that's like a really good thing to have in place, and we found that works really well, rather than someone wandering into a gym on a club night that don't know anyone. It's surprising how many new runners we get coming to us who don't know anyone at all in the club. They've just seen our website and have just turned up. So it is a really good thing, and it actually I know Sarah feels very valued as a run leader and as a committee member to be able to do that as well. That's going to be something for you also to consider.
Yep, a great idea. Again, another great idea from Ashington. I know Ted's agreeing with you, said that they've got welcome officers, and that obviously also helps the coaches focus on obviously what they're wanting to do rather than the greeting side of things. So a really good idea to put forward. Right, so I'm going to finish it off there, guys, and I just want to say thanks again for the club, for Ashington, for Natalie, Michelle, and Ian, for obviously taking time out very evening tonight to do the presentation, and for obviously the preparation that went into it as well. So thanks very much for that. Hopefully everyone's taken a little snippets and top tips and things to take back to the club, which will help the club, the coaches, the run leaders, etc. moving forward. What we're going to do now is just put up a really, really short survey. It'll literally take a couple of seconds just to click through, but it is very important that you do complete that, because obviously that goes towards the development of future webinars that we can kind of put forward for yourselves as road running clubs or track and field clubs alike. So if you can just go through that survey before you sign out of the webinar, that would be brilliant. And all that's left to say from our side of things is thanks again for everybody that's signed in tonight, taking up your evening, and we hope that you have a pleasant